Welcome to The Passion Pod with your host, Chris Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the feature presentation.
Season 6, Episode 1.
Welcome back, friends. Today we are sitting in a penthouse in Hollywood, California with a very real magic man. Some people are just born entrepreneurs like myself and this gentleman. Determination becomes success. Welcome to the show, Myles Hass.
What is up, everybody?
Dude, this is so sick, man. So I'm actually interviewing, but I didn't know you on Monday when I arrived.
Yeah.
Didn't realize how cool you were. And now I've been just like hanging out, bothering you, like uninvited guests. You didn't even know who I was this whole week. And this is the last day of the trip. And we're finally sitting down to record an interview.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. We should probably give the audience a little context to how we met, right?
Yeah, probably. I think so.
So you and one of your good friends that you grew up with is a good friend of mine that I met when I first moved out here to LA in Hollywood. And we became very close friends. And when he let me know that he was coming out here to do some photo shoots and whatnot, he said he was bringing along a friend. And I said, okay, that's cool, you know. And in comes you, and I'm like, oh, what's going on, man? Hey, what do you do? Oh, you do a podcast? Oh, I do one too. And then just like you kind of just caught me in my little work mode, and slowly but surely we got to know each other. And then we're like, oh, wow, we actually have a lot of commonalities. So
yeah, we both built a business.
Hey, you want to do a podcast with me? I'm like, yeah, it kind of makes sense. It sounds like something that's right up my alley. Why not?
Dude, we just went for a ramen date yesterday, and it could have been a podcast in itself.
Honestly, every conversation we've had could have been a podcast in itself.
Very true. So I always ask this to start. Who are you, and what are you passionate about?
My name is Myles Hass, and I am passionate about creating experiences for people. Life-changing experiences for people. If we want to like actually dive in, that's the core of it all. That's like what really gets me going.
Dude, you get a lot of people going in a lot of ways. How can people best follow you, see the work that you do, because they still don't have context yet, and get in contact with you?
So if you can find us all over social media. You can find me personally at Myles Hass on all social platforms. It's MYLESHASS. And then you can see what I do at Magic Men Live. And that name should maybe sum it up quite enough for you. And I'll just give you a hint. It's not a magic show. So
magic happens, baby.
It does happen. I also have a podcast of my own. It's called the Stripped Down Podcast. So maybe that'll give you a little bit more of a hint.
And then people are sitting here wondering, like, what? Wait, Chris, you went to Hollywood and you hung out in a penthouse with this guy? I thought you were working instead. Magic's happening. So you built an empire, but let's take it back, right? Mm-hmm. You're originally from Detroit, so we're both Midwest folk. You were raised by immigrants, which is what you told me the other day. Mm-hmm. Can you fill me in general, fill us in on what your family life and what growing up kind of looked like for you?
Yeah, kind of grew up in a pretty impoverished area in Detroit. Both of my parents, like you said, immigrated here from Lebanon, 100% Lebanese, and kind of come from more generally a conservative culture, but my family in particular wasn't like that at all. Very, very much Americanized, and kind of just let us do our own thing. Even though we didn't grow up with a lot of money, they just always were there with like the unconditional love and support, and from an early age I kind of picked up some entrepreneurial habits, just because of the circumstances I grew up in. It's like everything you do, has to be earned, right? And my dad, I watched my dad raise 4 kids, with no education, just kind of a hustler and just doing his thing, but worked very hard. He's worked 40 years for Kroger's, actually, and while at the same time having side things that he would do, investing in houses, renting them out. My mom was the brains of it. She took care of all the household finances and whatnot, and just kind of like being around them, watching how they worked smart and like survived and raised 4 kids at the same time kind of put me in a mindset. It's like, okay, well, I got to do whatever I want as a kid, like at 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old. I have to earn it somehow. Then I would, thinking back in retrospect, it's like, okay, that's why I used to do this and sell it to the neighborhood kids and knock on people's doors to cut their grass or shovel their snow or go to local businesses to sweep up their parking lot just to get a couple bucks, and it helped create like an entrepreneur back then, right? And it just kind of was always something that was like it's instilled that in me like at a very early age.
I mean, can you even imagine how difficult it could have been, right? That obviously puts in perspective for yourself. We talk about how people don't start necessarily at the same playing field. We just don't. Some people start with a lot more privilege than other people. Mm-hmm. But really, when you start from nothing, if you do make it to the level of, being relatively successful, mm-hmm. I feel like you really understand and value the things that you've earned at that point because they weren't handed to you. And we think about like how hard it is without having startup money in comparison to other people or whatever to build something like what you built. But dude, you didn't have to move here in your 20s without speaking English. You didn't have to like worry about, you know what I mean? You got to start with all this stuff in front of you, even if it wasn't handed to you. Right. And that in itself is such a significant advantage. Yeah. And it's so cool that you're able to recognize that and appreciate that mm-hmm. and not take that for granted. So what was the actual first, like obviously, you're mowing grass and you're doing all those types of things, right? Mm-hmm. What was the first business thing that you actually did?
The first business thing that I actually did was when I got access to the internet. I was probably 13 or 14 years old, and I would play video games all the time online with like other players online. There's this one online game called RuneScape.
Oh, God.
I was a big junkie of RuneScape. But the way I played was I would make all the money in game and then sell it to other gamers. Right, so that's how I made, like at 13 years old, my first couple $1,000s like weekly, and my mom was like, "How are you doing this?" It's like, look, there's this thing called eBay, and you can sell things. I would like finesse it a little bit. I would sell a guide, a quote unquote guide, on how to make a million coins in this game, right? And then basically, if you buy the guide, I would log in and trade it just straight to you. And that's like my first business, like as a 13-year-old.
How wild is that though, right? Like I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs and mm-hmm. a lot of people have stories kind of similar to that. Yeah. Where it's just like that hustle that was always there. And I had been in sales for a long time, but I didn't have that. So how in the world did I end up doing what I'm doing? Well, the difference is I was 23 when I opened my store. By the time you were 23, you were already traveling all over the world. Yeah. Killing it. So we'll get into the Magic Men thing, but the reason, at least my understanding, that you were even in that realm, that you had an understanding, mm-hmm. was you had a relative that owned like an entertainment thing like that, right? Yeah. And that was your uncle? Yep. So can you explain what that was like and how, like, what did you actually learn from that ended up leading mm-hmm. you into and helping you do what you did? So yeah,
when I was 18 years old, I was kind of at like this crossroads. Like I was just about to go into college and I wanted to have some sort of job on the side, a weekend gig or just a side job to, make some money. And I told my dad that I was thinking about becoming a bartender. That was like the first thing that popped in my head, right? And he did not like that idea. He's like, hell no. I do not want you in the nightlife scene. I don't want you around the alcohol and all that. I have a better idea. I'm going to call your uncle and you're going to go work for his stripper company instead. So just to give you a little background on my uncle, he started an adult party entertainment company back in 1989. And he transformed this thing into a legitimate, like, corporatized business. And basically what they did was hire out adult party entertainers for private parties such as bachelor parties, bachelorette parties, birthdays, divorce parties, anything where you wanted to have, some sexy entertainment. Hostesses, bartenders, shot girls, guys, girls, male dancers, female dancers. whatever you needed in terms of like in that realm, you would call him. And he was all over the radio. He was like a big deal in the city, and he made quite a name for himself, and he branded his thing very well. He had TV spots and commercials on the radio, and was all over in the news and all that. So he was the go-to guy. Turned it into a multi six-figure business, and he came from a corporate background, so he applied a lot of that to the business, which had never like really been done properly before. So he was able to succeed by adding a level of professionalism to an industry that lacked it for a long time. So when I went and worked for him, he basically just taught me, the ins and outs of the business and the corporate world, and kind of doing things legitimately, taking anything and making it a legitimate business, right? So that kind of took me out of like the hustle, finesse, like kind of mode, and like, okay, let's add a little more structure to your game. Let's add a little bit more professionalism to your game. And he taught me a lot of that. And then he was a very clever, guy as well. He understood the internet. He understood marketing, branding, how to get people to, invest and, believe and trust in whatever it was that he was selling. And I mean, you're talking about a stigmatized product or service, right? So a lot of people are going to be very hesitant to trust that this is going to be legit. So you've got to know how to do your branding and marketing very well in order to make it successful. So I picked up a few things in that realm while working for him. And, I also had kind of like this, fascination with the internet and technology. So I've always been like that. So like I learned how to create my own website when I was like still in high school or middle school, actually. And so I was always fascinated by the internet and how it worked, and looking for ways. It's like, oh, you could kind of like use this to your advantage. Google AdWords and Facebook comes out, and oh wow, now you have all these targeting options. It's like there's a lot of information you could use here to really hone in on the person that you're trying to reach without having to, blow all this money on billboards or ads where you don't know who exactly is going to see it and whether or not they're going to actually be into whatever it is that you're selling them. So I kind of took that and like mixed it in with everything that he taught me. And then when I found an opportunity, I would apply everything that kind of I've learned and just apply it to that thing, and then just drive it as far as I could take it.
You're obviously a genius. Like, I figured that out hanging out with you. But really, like,
in certain ways, other ways I'm a dumbass.
You're just extremely determined, right? And you have this mind that's like, I'm not going to say that I can't do it. I'm going to figure it out. I'm not going to have an excuse. I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I love that you don't have to wait until somebody else does it. You look and you're like, well, it doesn't matter if nobody, it's almost better that nobody's done it because now this is a niche that I can hop into.
Yeah.
I know the story a little bit of like, yeah, I mean, we're talking like Magic Mike, basically, right? They pretty much just ripped you off. I saw the trailers. I saw the things you're doing. You packed houses with like incredible, but what did early day like Myles do? Did you just like hire a couple homies? Like, what was the very beginning before you actually got it to be this big production?
So the very beginning is I was working for my uncle, and he was like 25 years into the business, and he was ready to retire. So at some point I was like, well, I can tell you don't care about this anymore, and maybe it's better if I do. You want to retire, do your thing. I'm going to continue the business, but I see ways to improve it. So I started to do my own thing. I was working out of my parents' house, out of my bedroom, building my own website and, marketing it. And it was basically, the start was me hiring male entertainers and female entertainers to go out to the private parties and whatnot. And then the idea of creating a show, a ladies' night show, came from when this one particular client called us and said, hey, I'm doing a little ladies' night. There's going to be like 30 to 50 women there. I want to hire 5 of your guys, which was a little bit different than what we were used to doing. it was way more guys than, each bachelorette party would normally hire one guy. So I was like, okay, we could definitely do that, but I'm going to go with the guys just to kind of make sure everything goes smooth. And I had never been to like a bachelorette party or any sort of ladies night event before. I've been to like over 1,000 bachelor parties, so I kind of knew what that world looked like and felt like. But I've never been to the other side. So this was my first time.
And we're talking, you're like 19 or something. Right?
I was like 19 or 20 at this time. So I remember walking in with the guys. It was like some hall in Detroit. And we walk in through like the back door, and we're kind of in this backstage area. And we're walking through this like little corridor, and we walk past this curtain. And on the other side of the curtain were the ladies. And there's like a small, like maybe 6-inch to a foot gap in the curtain where they could see who was walking by. And I remember walking by, and the guys were right behind me. And as soon as they walked by, and the women got a glimpse of the guys, I just heard an eruption in the room. Just all the girls went crazy. And I had never experienced that before. I was like, whoa, what was that? What were they screaming about? Did I miss something? What was going on here? Right? And then I realized, I was like, oh, they're like really excited about the entertainers. I've never seen that like at a bachelor party. You don't like, the girls walk in and everybody's cool. They're drinking their beer, playing poker, shooting craps, whatever. Like nobody makes a peep. Like you might get a couple whistles. That's it. The girls, they go nuts. So I was like, whoa, what the heck is this? And then when they started performing, I watched the reaction and I felt the energy in the room. I was like, oh my goodness, this is something different. Like there's a reason why they're reacting this way, right? So that's what planted the seed in my head that we need to like consider doing something like this, like on a professional level. So eventually, after I started my own thing and I had enough guys to kind of create something with, I reached out to a local strip club and I said, hey, give me your slowest night of the week. And I had already known that they were kind of like hurting a little bit, like, so I knew, I was like, this would be a good opportunity to kind of come in and try this out. So I said, give me your slowest night of the week. What night is like dead, completely dead? They're like, Sunday nights. We'll give it to you on Sunday night. But I'm 21 at this time. And they're like, I don't know if we want to give control of our club to this kid, right? They're like, I said, if I'm going to do it, I need to have full control. I don't want you guys trying to bring in some guys and trying to orchestrate this. I need to be in control. I'm putting my brand on it. I'm putting my name on it. I'm in full control. I set up a deal with them and a cut at a door split, basically. That basically, like, they could not lose. You know what I mean? It was a win-win for them. But the manager at the time was still very nervous about it. Like the whole time leading up to the first event, they were like, she was nervous. Like, what's going on? Keep me updated, all this. And that my bosses are, kind of breathing down my neck. And I'm just like, just stay cool. I got this. Like, I was doing my thing on social media, promoting it and whatnot. And she kind of didn't realize what was happening behind the scenes. And then we didn't really realize as well, to be completely honest, because when we rolled up to the club the night of the first show, there was a line wrapped around the entire building, and we're just like, whoa. And we broke every single record that club had. There was over 500 women that showed up, and they were ready to roar, So we're just like, holy cow. And at this time, we didn't really have a show. It was just 5 guys and me, and it's like, okay, pick a couple songs, go up there, take your clothes off, and just do your thing, right? They loved it, you know what I mean? But so after that, the club was like, okay, we want to bring you back. This was the best night we've ever done at the bar, at the door. We need to keep doing this. So that's where it all started. We started doing it once a month, and it took 4 years before we actually put together like a legitimate show. Because during that entire time, I started to actually like, okay, I need to figure out this whole thing, theater, concerts, production, everything. Let me piece it all together. I start going to other shows, start going to concerts, and now I'm taking mental notes and kind of outlining a template for what a show should look like, and now inserting my show and producing the audio and visuals for it, hiring a concert lighting director and all this, like slowly piecing it together, because I knew what it could be. I saw the competition, which was like the Chippendales and Thunder from Down Under, and I'm just like, well, okay, they're doing it on a like national level, and their shows at this kind of like, here's where the bar is set. At first, I thought the bar was way higher in my head. But after seeing the shows, I was like, oh, I could definitely get to that level. Definitely. Right? So it gave me motivation. So even though we were doing the smaller shows, I knew eventually we could get to that level that they were at, if not surpass it. And that's what we eventually did, was surpass it, like by a long shot. And but it took time. But that's part of like what it takes to actually achieve your goals, is like you got to realize where the top of the mountain is, and it doesn't matter how long it takes to get there. Like, you got to be patient, right? As long as you're taking steps towards the top of the mountain, like, you know you're going to get there. And that was always in the back of my head. I know where this is going to end up. It's just going to take time. There's certain steps I got to take to get there. No big deal. I'm going to get there. And I'm going to learn along the way, and it's going to make me better prepared for when I do get there. Because you can't just hop up there. You're not prepared for what you got to do up there. Like, along the way, like, I didn't even know how the hell I looked into the pricing of tour buses. I was like, how the hell is that even possible? There's no way they can make money paying that much for a tour bus. And then I was like, oh, wait. As I took the steps, then it made more sense, right? I'm like, okay, now I see how it works more, right? So taking your time is like actually a really, really good thing. Being patient is a very good thing. It's a very necessary thing. And that's what I did. And over the course of like 6 years, we turned it into the biggest national tour in our niche and genre that there was. And we were outperforming some major acts that were owned by like Live Nation and, Access and all the big promoters and whatnot. So, because at first they wouldn't, like, nobody would kind of take us on and book us, right? So we were doing a lot of it just on our own. We were just reaching out to venues, hey, can we bring our show to your place? You know what I mean? And they're like, hell no, we don't want no male strippers here. And they wouldn't pay us to be there. You know what I mean? Normally acts, they come in, they're like, okay, we'll pay you $5,000 or $10,000, $25,000, whatever it is, for you guys to perform at our venue. Us, we had to take a different route. They would say no to us everywhere we went. So I'm like, okay, whatever. How much does it cost to rent your venue? I'll pay for everything. Now you can't say no, right? You can't lose. I'll pay for the venue. I'll pay for the staff. I'll pay for everything. I got my end too. The production that I'm bringing, my guys, everything. It's on me. But I'm keeping every dime of revenue that comes in, right? So they're like, okay, well, we can't lose. It's going to be a win for us. We'll get to keep the bar. They'll keep the the tickets and whatnot. So they're like, oh, this is a win for us. But then we start selling out every single one of their venues, and they're like, oh, damn. Like now Live Nation's like, fuck, we want a piece of that. So now they're like hitting us up, and we're like, no, we could do it without you, and we make more money doing it without you, because really all you're doing is giving us promotion, but we don't need that. We know how to promote ourselves. And that's kind of where I came in with my digital marketing kind of mind, and I just took advantage of like what was available to me,
Well, that's the thing, right? There's a couple things there. The genius that I keep referring to, not just to like talk you up, but what it really is when you realize that, right, in this very moment, I'm not capable of doing this show. That does not mean that long term, I'm not capable of doing this show. And a lot of people will just find an excuse. They'll run into the first roadblock and say, well, I don't know anything about promotion.
Yeah.
Or, well, I don't know how to hire people, or, well, I don't know how to get a hold of this bar. They said no. It's when you decide that no matter what, I am going to do this, even if it's going to take a long time. And the like huge benefit of growing it in the way that you do is you understand every minute detail of everything everything to do with it.
Yeah.
Everything, which is what I admire so much about you when I'm sitting here talking podcasts. Because when I met you, we've been doing podcasts the same amount of time, right?
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of my show. I think it's great. And I'm not trying to compare the two. However, I'm talking to you about that, and you're like, oh, let me show you this video thing, right? Because your show, there's video attached to it. And that's something where I'm like, yeah, I want to get into video for it, but I'm not really sure how to do it. Not using it as an excuse that I'm not gonna, but I'm not really sure when I want to start or how to do whatever. But you didn't care that you didn't know.
Right.
And I sat here and watched you as a whiz sitting on Premiere Pro going through everything, just tippity tap, because it looks like you've been doing this thing forever. And the fact is that you learned all of that 100% on your own, and you made yourself an expert on that. That is where the genius really lies. If you can apply that to anything you're trying to do, it's gonna be successful.
It's really just a mentality. You know what I mean? It's like the information is out there. The knowledge is out there. You know what I mean? It's all available at your fingertips, right? So if it's like, okay, I need this, let me Google it, let me YouTube it, let me figure out how I can do that. I'm not going to sit and wait and look for somebody who can do that, right? Because then it's hit or miss, and you'll never end up with the exact thing that you want. So if you know how to do it, then you can do it whenever you want, as you want it, right? So it's just like there's nothing that you need that you can't figure out, right? And it's just as simple as just doing it, right? And then you figure out a way to enjoy it. When you enjoy it and you believe in it, and you're like, oh, this is fun, like this is cool or whatever, then you want to learn, you want to figure it out. It's like a game to you, right? And then you just figure it out, and it's like now you're having fun as you're on this little new adventure. It's like starting a game from level 0, and it's like, okay, sweet, like there's all these new things to explore and figure out. And it's like enjoyable at the same time. So it's like really the mindset that's like the most important thing, I feel like. You know, people kind of, you know, they grunt and moan about, oh, this and that. It's like, dude, that's kind of, I get excited about it. Like this is, if I care about the thing that I'm working on, then this is exciting to me. You know what I mean? So it's just like a shift in your mindset that makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, you got to stop looking at the top of the mountain saying that's so far away.
Yeah.
You got to realize that, oh my God, I've been flying by all these different trees, by these rocks. I'm 5 more miles than I was a few days ago.
Right.
Look at all this progress. That's exciting.
Yeah.
It's celebrating all that and having that mentality. Let's talk about these big time shows, because I'm from a totally different world in that. I've never experienced something like that. I've hardly even gone to big events where there's that kind of people. You were packing massive venues. We're talking, you said what, like 5,000 women for some of these. What were some of the highlights? I mean, obviously, like you were doing it a long time, so that's like kind of a hard question to answer. But what are some of the highlights from that time frame? What's like one of the stories that you could share?
I mean, there's a lot of highlights, because the entire thing is like a highlight in itself, right? So it's like we toured for 6 years. In the very beginning, we were just driving our own cars from city to city, you know, going to whatever venue would open their doors to us. Our motto was, you give us a stage, we'll give you a show. And this was at a time where I was just like plugging in my laptop and being on the microphone myself, and like trying to control their house lighting, which was like maybe 3 or 4 switches, pressing buttons. I didn't know what they did, just trying to create some sort of a visual effect, right? So it was like, that was a really fun time for us, because it's just like one giant adventure. It's me and my homies, pretty much like all in our early 20s, just going out, just traveling the road city to city, and just having the time of our lives, right? We're doing these ladies' night events, and you know, the dynamic of that atmosphere is like what every 20-year-old guy would die for, you know what I mean? So we're just having the time of our lives. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, we got to keep in mind that there's an end goal here. Let's try to be responsible, boys. Come on, man. We're getting too crazy here. It's like, yo, this is getting a little out of control. But, you know, we pulled it back, and it's like, okay, we're going to set some parameters here. Otherwise, we're not going anywhere. You know what I mean? Because we were living that rock star lifestyle for sure, like to the fullest extent, in a way that not a lot of people, even rock stars themselves, don't, because of the type of show we are, right? So that's enough said on that. But yeah, we eventually turned it into like this professional production where we were traveling with 2 tour buses, a semi truck, and a 16-foot box truck with all our production equipment. I mean, we've got our own stage hands, our production manager, lighting director, tour manager, everything, audio engineers. It's like everything that is required to create like all these concerts that you see on the road. Like we had that as part of our team that traveled with us. It was all in-house. So just building that was exciting. And then of course, like the shows slowly started to get bigger and bigger. It was like a couple hundred girls to 500 girls. Then all of a sudden we're doing 1,000 girls. We're like, holy cow. Then all of a sudden it's like 2,000 girls. And then we broke the record for the biggest ladies night ever by selling out the Belco Theater in Denver, Colorado twice for 5,000 people per show. And this is a venue where you walk backstage and you'll see there's a poster for every person that's ever sold out that venue. And you're seeing guys like Kevin Hart, Nicki Minaj, Drake, Jamie Foxx, Jerry Seinfeld, all the comedians that you know and love, all the music artists that you know and love. And then after we sold it out the first year, we go back the next year, and boom, our poster is sitting there right next to all of them. So we're just like, what the hell did we do? This is crazy. This is so bizarre. This is not supposed to happen, right? Like, who would have thought a male entertainment show would be like on this level? This is not normal, right? Like, so that is definitely like a highlight of that entire kind of, chapter.
Dude, I can't even imagine. I recently was like really excited because I won my first award for my show, and not to downplay any awards. This is a huge problem with myself, is I need to celebrate my own successes. I just don't want to come across as cocky, but I don't celebrate my successes much. But the Chippewa Valley, like Volume 1 is our major like local magazine type thing that they do, like newspaper thing. And they always throw these awards. They're called like the Chippewa Valley Readers Awards or whatever. And my show won Best Local Podcast. So I got like my award and I framed it and I put it up in my shop and I'm all proud of it.
It's like, an exciting feeling, man. Anything. Like I get proud of like any little thing that, like, I remember the first time we were in the newspaper, my dad went and bought like all the copies and he's handing them out to people at work. He's like, look at my son. He's in the newspaper. It's just like a mention of me. And he's just like very proud of that. And then like we got best entertainment company in Detroit, and that was a big deal for us. It's like all those little milestones, man, you gotta appreciate them. You know what I mean? It's just like basically reassurance, like you're on the right track, right? And it's like everything that you're doing is being recognized. You know what I mean? And it's a good feeling to acknowledge and remind yourself of every now and then. It's like, don't be so hard on yourself. Pat yourself on the back every now and then. You earned it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And when you look at that mountain that's far off in the distance, dude, you just climbed one.
Yeah.
Like it's time to actually celebrate. If you think about where you started, and then when you reach peaks like that, like, yeah, there's always more to be done, but you reach peaks like that, it's pretty incredible, and it really is something to really celebrate. But unfortunately, things are blowing up, and then here comes COVID.
Yeah.
How do you go from like, because the industry is gone. You built something up that had all this momentum that was doing incredible, and then something completely out of your control just wipes it away. What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, at first you're just like, what the is going on? But at the same time, you got to look at it from like a different lens and just be like, wait a minute, this is actually a really good thing. This is like, okay, actually there's a huge opportunity here. You just got to like, of course at first, because off of the show, we started to like slow down a little bit, because after 6 years of touring, we're like, okay, I need to breathe. Let's slow it down a little bit. I moved out here to LA. We did a couple residency shows here out in LA, selling them out and trying to show the entertainment world our entertainment, right? And then COVID hits on the day of our last finale show, the grand finale event here in Hollywood, where we were bringing in like different celebrities and huge groups of ladies, and it's like a packed house, but of like some influential people. COVID hits the Thursday before the Saturday. the venue calls me, hey, we got to limit the capacity to only 250 people. It's a new city mandate. I was like, okay, I got to refund a bunch of tickets. Let me figure out which ones, whatever. Then by 6 p.m., they're like, new mandates down to 50 people. I'm like, oh, show's canceled. We can't do a show for just 50 people. I was just like, I mean, the venue cost in itself, you're not going to be able to, you're not making any money. I mean, you're not going to make any money on the 250 either. So it's like, you got to be able to sell out the venue. So we're like, shit, that sucks. And the finale show was on my birthday on top of it. So I planned it like that. I was like, there's going to be a finale show. It's sold out. It's going to be crazy. After party, all that. We just did this huge residency kind of stint in Hollywood. And, this will be the night to celebrate. Then it all gets wiped because of COVID. And then, we're like, let's see what happens. Okay, well, maybe it'll be all over by April. Let's just reschedule it for April. No, it's not April's not going to work. Let's reschedule it for September. September's not going to work. And then we're like, okay, so what do we do now? But the funny thing is, I had already been thinking about doing something outside of our touring for some time, because I was very conscious of the fact it's like, this thing cannot just rely on touring, right? That's very hard on us, physically and like logistically. It's a lot. You know what I mean? I was like, let's set up something that we can do on our off time, where we aren't like pressured to tour, right? Something that's a more consistent revenue stream every single month. It's like more consistent. Whereas with touring, it's like, you don't know how many tickets you're going to sell. You don't know what your profit margins are going to be per show. You're taking a huge risk every single tour you go out. And it's a huge financial kind of commitment that we're fronting and funding, like all of. So it is like, you got to have some massive balls and really know what the you're doing if you want to do that. So I was like, okay, let me pump the brakes a little bit, because you're getting too ballsy, bro. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like really difficult to maintain that for like an extended period of time. So that was already in the back of my head. So when COVID hit, I was like, okay, everything's shut down. Everybody everybody understands why we're not going to tour. Right, that was always a difficult thing for us. Is like, as soon as we stop, take a break from touring, we come off one tour, the fans are hitting us up. When are you coming back? When are you coming back? When are you coming back? Like, I mean, we built a huge fan base, over like 2 million people on social media, and they are fans. Like, they send us fan mail. We really like created an impact on a lot of these people because of our approach with our show. And that was like one thing that made us different about our show, is like, this is for you, not for us. You know what I mean? The show's not about us. It's about you, the audience. That was the mindset the whole time. So that created a huge fan base and created a strong connection between us and our fans. So, they guilt us into like, touring some more. And it's just like, well, I need to breathe, right? But now COVID hits. It's like, okay, now it's like built-in excuse to chill and then work on these other projects that we have in mind. So, we start getting to work, and basically what we've done since then is we start building basically an online experience of our show, an app basically that you can experience, and those same feelings that we create in you when you come to our show, but through the app now, right? That sense of excitement, that sense of like desire, that sense of like freedom and liberation. It's like, women don't have things that give them those feelings, you know what I mean, that are designed just for them, with them in mind, so, and they get judged for doing certain things differently than men do, right? Men go to strip clubs and nobody bats an eye. Women go to a show like ours and they're like, they get judged heavy for that. So we're in the mentality of like, fuck that, like, what? That's bullshit, you know what I mean? Like, it's nothing wrong with what you're doing. You're just having fun, you're exploring your sexuality. It's like, men can do it and women can do it too. Like, you know what I mean? So we wanted to create something like that for women, like outside of just our show. So no matter where we are, whether we're touring in your city or not, you can still get a little glimpse of that feeling that we create in the women that do come to our show, right? So that's where Magic Men Plus came from, and now on there, we host our podcast. Our podcast is hosted there, where you get not only the podcast episodes, but also bonus episodes that nobody else gets. And that's where we talk about all these different things from a mindset, like a similar mindset of like what we started with, giving the girls all the inside scoops on these boys. We're spilling all the beans, giving out all the secrets to the, we're basically the boy manual, just ripping out pages and saying, here, girls, this is exactly how you deal with that situation. They won't tell you, they won't admit it to you, but we'll tell you exactly what's going through that guy's head, what's going through his mind, because we've been there before. We were that guy before. We used to have that mindset. Now we're just going to tell you exactly like it is, right? So they appreciate that transparency and that honesty from us, and they can relate to it. And we're very just open. That's why we called it Stripped Down. We're getting completely emotionally naked. You know what I mean? So, and revealing everything. So that's part of it. And then there's other cool features that are part of it, cool content behind the scenes. We're going to start live streaming shows from there as well. And it's a place where they can interact with us. There's like a little built-in community there where, like-minded women can, kind of meet new like-minded women, connect, and they become like best friends and whatnot. They end up, sharing all kinds of like stories with each other. Like I see it all in the comment section. I'm just like, wow, look at that. These two ladies are like literally just having a full out conversation in the comment section, catching up, and they know everything about each other, and they met through us. It's like, okay, sweet. Like we created this like little sub community. So that's what we've been focusing on more recently. And that thing I think is where the long-term play is anyway, I think that is like, Magic Men Plus is like, your Disney Plus, but for women, right? For adult women, a safe haven for women to kind of enjoy that type of entertainment,
Well, and one thing I can tell about you, because we've been hanging out and I know you well enough at this point, everything is a stepping stone. It doesn't matter that you don't think it is. It is. You gain skills from anything that you do. And you wouldn't have been able to do this unless you had done everything that you were doing leading up. But here's the really cool part, right? You're doing things along the same lines, but I know you were just ready to do new shit anyways. Right? It was like natural timing of like, okay, well, I kind of want a new challenge and something to do anyways. And now what you're doing is you're building your whole business, your whole empire, much larger, much stronger, with so many more different capabilities to it. It's not like you can't go back to doing some tours, but now you don't have to do as many. Fans are only going to be more excited when you do actually do them, which means you can raise ticket prices a little bit more, so you can pay everybody else a little bit more for those ones that you do it. And it just gives you all these other outlets. And I bet you enjoy that sometimes you can just, talk with your friend on a mic recording a podcast tonight instead of in front of thousands of people consistently. You know what I mean?
I mean, there's definitely pros and cons to, talking in front of people is like an adrenaline rush, like you wouldn't believe, especially in the setting that we're talking about, you know what I mean? So it's just like, it's really fun. So, this is a lot more laid back, and there's a lot more pros to it when it comes to like, okay, guys, we don't have these kind of conversations a lot, like with deep emotion, like the stuff that we talk about on my podcast. Guys don't have conversations like that normally. Girlfriends, they talk about all that. How'd the date go? What was he like? What was that? This like, guys, we don't do that, right? So now it's like, okay, we're having these conversations, and it's forcing us to get deeper into it. And then now we're like psychoanalyzing ourselves, and it's like, oh, that's why we do that. Oh, that's the way that works. That's why that didn't work out. And it's like, oh wow, nobody's really explored this like on this level before. It's like, okay, now we're forced to. And it's actually revealing a lot of information to ourselves and to the audience. So it's like fascinating to me in itself, and then it's also fascinating to our audience. You know what I mean? So it's a win-win. It's like I am actually excited to sit down and talk about this subject because I know we're going to get to something that's like really interesting. I mean, who doesn't enjoy like talking about, all of us are sexually driven to some capacity, right? So we're all curious about it. We want to know why things are the way they are and how to, make it better, right? So it's like, okay, now that we're taking a deeper dive, we're helping each other and our audience do that, right? So it works.
Well, we're already in a great mood. We need to get to our second song break, but I will say it makes so much sense for you guys to do video because you have you and Romeo, who are hilarious and the best eye candy to be talking about all this for women. So it's
Romeo
perfect.
more so than me. He's the guy.
He's such a stud. What in the world? I feel like almost anybody could be successful if they put in the work the way that you do. That's what inspires me so much is like hanging out next to you where it's like, you don't need to figure out how to color correct your video, but you want to know how to do everything to the absolute best of your abilities, and you're going to find out how to do that. And that's been really inspiring for me hanging out with you because I work hard. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't have became an entrepreneur successfully at 23 if I didn't work hard.
Right.
But when you see other people that are really like going for it, it's to me, I draw a lot of motivation from that. I'm like, well, dude, if Myles can do that, I can do that too. So like that's... Right. I'm on it. So as things are coming back open, right? How are things going to look for you? Right now, you're spending, like, not kidding, 12 hours a day at least sitting at your laptop editing and learning out like everything you can possibly do about this. But I know that you're not going to do that forever.
Right.
So what are things going to be looking like for you in the coming months? How are you transitioning? What's going to happen?
Well, I'm kind of playing it by ear when it comes to the entire like touring part of it and the live show part of it. I'm like in no rush whatsoever to go back to that until I've seen things really just become back to normal, like fully back to normal, right? So I'm not sweating it. It's like everybody else, you guys can figure it out for me when I see that it's okay, everything's cool and back to normal. We'll start thinking about that. Right now, I found something that I'm really digging, that I really like enjoy doing. So I'm just taking my time building this new thing, you know, making it the best version of itself that it can be. And, you know, when the opportunity arises to go back out and do shows, then we will, you know. But right now, I've got this new thing with the Magic Men Plus and the podcast especially that I'm just sinking my teeth into. I want to make sure that this thing gets the full attention it deserves. And it really helps when you are doing something that you really give a shit about, like you care about this thing. And you might not think you care at first, right? But once you see that you're good at it and you're getting good at it, then you're like, ooh, I like this. This is fun, right? And then when you see that other people like it and they really love it, then it just takes it up to another level. That's like kind of where my motivation comes from. At first, it started out when we're talking about passion. It started out, okay, what do I think I can do, right? And then next, it's like, how can I get good at this, right? And then what? At the same time, I'm thinking about how can I get people to love it, right? Once I accomplish that part, like now that I've gotten good at it, I enjoy this way more, right? I'm having fun doing this. It's nothing to me to put in 12 hours a day because it doesn't feel like work at all, right? I'm just doing what I want to do anyway. Like if you were to give me the option between going out and partying and doing this, I'll pick this, right? Because this is like exciting to me. And that comes from figuring out what it is that I think I can do, then figuring out, can I get good at it? And then actually taking the steps to get good at it, getting good at it, and then seeing that, oh, other people like it. It's finally, like it took over a year for us to really pick up traction, right? Our core fans and our fan base, they're going to mess with anything we put out, right? They're super fans. Anything you guys put out, we support it, right? But now I'm seeing outside people that never heard of us before, never seen us before, they're starting to gravitate and resonate with it. They really enjoy it. They're talking, they're like, wow, I'm so happy I found this podcast. I'm so happy I discovered this. This is my new favorite thing. Okay, when I see that, now I'm like, the motivation and the passion just like amplified. So now it's like I went from doing 10-hour work days to 12 to 14-hour work days because it's just like I can't get enough of it, right? And it just becomes easy and it just escalates from there. You know, so we're going to build that up, turn that into its own little beast, and who knows what's going to go from where that's going to go, right? Because if you would have asked me back when I was still working at the clubs, you know, where do you see yourself 5 months from now, 6 months from now? I don't know exactly. I'm just going to let it play out the way it's going to play out. I do know that eventually my thing will be one of the best most talked about podcasts in the world. Like that sounds pretty ambitious, and that sounds a little, out of reach at the given moment. But I can already see, like I've already envisioned like the top charts, and like it's like my podcast, Joe Rogan, Call Her Daddy, like all those top podcasts, like right next to each other. Like I see that so vividly in my head. And that's like, even if it seems far-fetched, you have to like make yourself believe that, right? Otherwise, what's the point, right? Well, you have to have like that belief, right? And it sounds cliche. It sounds, you heard this a million times before, but like that is powerful, right? And if you can psych yourself up like that, it's going to make everything you do more exciting, right? Because that's the end goal, and that's going to be really cool when you get there, right? So it's just like these little psychological and mental kind of tweaks that you do to yourself that make everything a breeze as you're going through it, you know?
And it sounds far-fetched, but dude, Joe Rogan did it.
Right.
He's just a guy.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
I'm
he
in
took
no
time
rush
to do
either.
it.
Right.
There's no
There you
reason
go.
that you can't do it in time. People put these people on a pedestal. The only difference between them and you is they worked hard on this particular thing for a longer period of time.
Right.
That's it.
Yep.
Just put in that time. And a lot of people don't want to put in that time, but you already have. That's the beautiful part about my show, which I feel like I should have been included when you're reaching at the top podcast, that I should be there as well.
Yeah,
but you already built a business from nothing when
Right.
people didn't believe it was going to work. When I went to go get a loan for my shop, I was told no. And I said, well, what do I got to do differently? How do I got to what do I got to do with my business plan? What's off? Where are my numbers off? And I straight up was just told, skateboard shops don't work. So it doesn't matter what you do. No. There's no money.
Yeah, they don't work for you.
Right.
They'll work for me because I look at it different.
And
right?
I knew it would.
Right.
And I knew it would. And I found a way to do it. Now, I was young, kind of stupid, and all I did was get as much as I could in credit lines on credit cards to be able to open a store with hardly any merchandise, because that was the only like option at the time. But I made it work because I knew it was going to work.
Right.
And I feel the same way about my show. I genuinely believe that this show, and I you should see this. I'll send a picture when I get home. Before my show came out, I had already done with it, right, the first season, and I had a newspaper article written about me. And in it, the first line, my quote was, "I believe my show is going to change the world." And I genuinely think that it's going to change the world. I'm only a year and a half in. I'm very proud of my progress. And now that I'm hanging out with you, I'm even more juiced to be able to make things go.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely feasible. But here's the thing too. There's a caveat to that, having that mindset. You can't just have blind hope, right? You can't just have this wishful thinking and think that that's going to happen on its own. It's like, I want that to happen. That's the end goal. But now at the same time, I'm figuring out all the ways to help make it happen. Like, how do I get better at my promotion game? How do I talk about things that people are going to resonate with? How do I actually make it the best show? Right? I'm not just going to wish for it to happen, and hope it just happens by itself. I'm going to force it to happen. I'm going to make it happen. Like, every move I make from this day forward is in strategy to get to that place, right? So that's the biggest thing too. It's like, and that takes time. You gotta be patient. And if you're having fun, the patience part is easy, right? If you care, the patient part is easy. And you don't necessarily have to dedicate all of your time at first. If you've got a 9-to-5 job right now that you're not completely satisfied with, and you've got a couple hours every single night to just like invest into this other thing that you care about, okay, that's all it takes. 2 hours every night, 3 hours every night. All of a sudden that thing starts to make you a little bit more money. Before you know it, a year later, a year and a half later, that thing's making you more money than your 9-to-5 job. It's like, okay, here's my 2-week resignation. I've got something else going on. I'm going to invest all my time now into this. It could be a slow process like that. And a lot of people, they don't realize. It's like, I just don't have time to do it. It's like, you've got time to sit and watch TV. You do it for your own leisure. Treat this thing like your leisure, right? It doesn't have to be hard work. It doesn't have to be like, tedious, or like, it doesn't have to be something that's like a burden to you, right? You could do what you want to do because you want to do it. And that's now your new leisure, and you just invest a couple hours every single night or whatever, and over time it turns into your new thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and let's be real here. We're not talking back-breaking work. It's
Right.
not physical labor to be able to learn and grow and build the majority of things in today's world, right? And dude, people play things like The Sims and Minecraft where they're doing
Right.
tedious things to build towards something bigger. Just
Exactly.
do it for yourself.
Yeah, think of it like a game.
Absolutely. We have incredible experiences when you live a different lifestyle than the average, right? When you don't just like go to your corporate Best Buy job or whatever, you just live a different life. I mean, you staying up till 7 in the morning working on podcasts is living a different life. You traveling all over the country, outside of the country for that matter, packing seats and having like, these are not normal things.
Yeah.
We get to have really incredible experiences, and this is my favorite part of the show because I think these ones, they're different for every single person. And when I listen to people's stories, that's what really inspires me and motivates me and thinks like, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, so that way I can have things like this happen. One of those things, dude, I'm not trying to like continue to like talk you up, but the fact that I met you simply because I've been doing my show. I had no intention of meeting you. I didn't know who you were. But here I am, and I've spent a week making another really good friend, learning so much, and we've like really bonded over a lot of this stuff. I'm hanging out in a penthouse in Hollywood with the dude who does Magic Men. Like,
Right.
what in the world happened to me? I'm going to be going back home telling people like what I was doing this week, and they're going to be shaking their head like, how? And I'd be like,
Right.
dude, because I like didn't manifest this exact scenario, but because of what I've chosen to do, I knew things like this were going to happen. What is one experience, you've been sharing them, but I want to hear another one. What's one experience that you are really grateful that you had, but it only happened to you because you chose to pursue your passion for creating and doing all this cool shit?
I mean, there's so many, dude. It's so hard to like pinpoint one. I mean, I guess it would be okay. The way you just described your experience meeting me is kind of how I feel about this experience that I had, and it was actually a year ago after COVID hit. You know, we were kind of doing our own thing, and then out of the blue, we got this DM from a blue check mark. I'm just like, wait a minute, this name kind of looks familiar. And it was a girl that was asking us, hey, you know, are you guys based in LA? We'd like to, I have a friend's birthday party coming up, and I'd like to like hire a few of the guys to come and just like do a little performance for her. I'm just like, we know we've graduated from doing private parties. We've never done a private party in like over 6 years. So we're just like, I normally wouldn't do this, but let me look into this person. Let me kind of piece this together. And I look into it, and I start to piece it together, and I'm just like, oh, she's friends with so-and-so. I have a strong feeling that if we go here and do this party, it's going to be for this type of crowd. So we agreed to do it. Called up a few of the boys and said, hey, got a gig. You guys down? We got together. We kind of took a piece of our show and kind of, you know, scaled it down to fit in a living room. And then we went out to this party. We pull up. It's this mansion in Malibu. And when we pull up, there's all this security outside. They're doing like checks on us, like, who are you guys? What are your names? I kind of see some IDs. Let me cross-check it with the list and all this. And we're like, oh, wow, okay, they're not messing around here. And we walk in, and my presumption was right. I walk in, first person I see is Jaden Smith. Next person I see is the DJ Marshmello. Then I see Trey Songz. I see Kendall Jenner, Kylie Jenner, and all of their friends. And I'm just like, what the is going on? We come in, I set up the music and everything just like I used to do for the bachelor parties that I would drive the girls to. And I'm just like, but now we're doing it for this type of crowd. This is ridiculous. the boys come in, they put on their show. They assumed it was going to be like some cheesy little striptease act. No, we took a piece of our show, our choreographed production, and put it in their living room, and they just went absolutely bananas. They were like, what the heck? Like, we weren't anticipating this. This is crazy, right? They went nuts. And it's at so many people that you could recognize. And then Kendall and Kylie and the girls and their best friends, they're all just like coming up to us afterwards like, oh my God, that was amazing. I can't wait to come to your actual show. Like, we were supposed to go to it back in January, but something, we can't, let us know when the next one is. And they're hugging us. Let's do a shot, this and that. And we're just like all, like, on the outside, we're playing it cool. But inside, we're like shook. Like, what the hell? This is crazy. How did we go from doing private parties in Detroit, I'm working out of my parents' house and out of my bedroom, to now to being here right now, right? How is that? How did we end up here? And yeah, that was like a high and a memorable moment that definitely like hit me like different. We've had lots of highs doing what we do, but that's one that like really stuck out to me, and like I couldn't stop thinking about the whole drive back, the whole night. The next day, I'm still talking about it, obviously.
I mean, it's incredible when you like people like that in that space can hire anyone to do anything at all. The fact that out of anybody in the world, they wanted to hire you guys, a business that you built from nothing, that is an extremely incredible feat.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's so bizarre.
Okay, so I'm like blown away by the story. That's incredible. I can't wait until I get called to interview somebody like.
Yeah, it won't be long before you're sitting across from somebody that you're like, wait a minute, how did I end up here?
Dude, I mean that's been happening as it is, but even more so. I know I'm on my track. I'm on my way to do that. I want to know one more lesson from you, though. I mean, we've talked about, for the most part, right, determination. That's kind of been the big thing. I feel like I haven't heard about you making any mistakes yet. Like, somehow Myles just doesn't make mistakes.
That's going to be further from the truth.
What is one mistake that you made that you learned a valuable lesson from? Not because I'm trying to humiliate you, but I want to hear something that maybe someone listening can benefit from.
Definitely. A big reason, this is one that happened early on, and it's a big reason why I am involved with every aspect of what I do. Very early on, when we were first starting doing our shows, there was a club that wanted to bring us to, their venue, and the way they sold it to us is like, yo, you don't even have to promote it. It'll be like, already got so many clients. We'll invite everybody. It'll be a packed house. You know what I mean? It'll be an easy night for you. And this is like very early on, maybe like our third or fourth show that we've done. And I'm like, oh, okay, easy enough. I won't have to do much promotion or whatever. We'll just come in, do our thing like you're used to, and you guys will take care of the rest. Then we show up, and there's like 15 girls, and we're just like, wait a minute, didn't you say you were handling the promotion? And he's like, no, I thought you were. I thought, what happened? What's going on? And he just starts like giving me this, run around. I'm just like, oh my God. And I was so, like, obviously we still did the show and, played it off like nothing was wrong. Like, we still showed those 15 girls the greatest night of their lives. But when I remember getting back home, parked out front of my house, and I just start yelling. And I was so upset. I was so angry and like flustered that I was like embarrassed. Like, I was like, I can't believe I was that dumb to believe this guy and trust this guy to like do something. Like, I'm not ever gonna make that mistake again. I'm gonna make sure that everything that I want done gets done. And I'm gonna make sure that I can trust the people that I put in place to do that if it's not gonna be me, right? And that was a big learning experience for me. Like, you've got to take the reins. You can't just go off of people's words. You got to go off of their actions, their history, their track record, and you got to step up and get done what you want done. You know what I mean? So I took full reins after that, and it's been nothing but packed houses ever since. So it's like that was a good experience to have early on. But mistakes, those are going to come in all shapes, forms, and sizes, when they happen. The biggest thing that you need to know about addressing those mistakes is anticipating them to happen and not treating it like a big deal when they do happen. Staying level-headed and anticipating it, knowing, whatever, something's going to happen. Something's going to go wrong. This is not going to go perfect. Something's going to go wrong. You do as much preparation as you can. Something will there's going to be hiccups, but you cannot freak out about it, because then you put yourself into a mindset that can't resolve the issue, right? So I learned to anticipate mistakes, accept them as they come, and then just level-headedly address them, one by one. And then just know, okay, whatever, it's not that big of a deal. People will forget about it, and then the next one we do, they won't even remember, or most of the time they don't even notice the mistakes. Only you do, because you're so close to it. The audience and the other people outside, they don't notice the mistakes. You're the one that are the only ones that notice it. So you're like overcritical on yourself, like thinking you really messed up, but in other people's minds it's not that big of a deal. And even if it is like an embarrassing thing or whatever, it's like, whatever, I'm going to make you forget about it very soon. You know what I mean? You won't be talking about that very long, because the next one that we do is going to be that much better. You know what I mean? So it's just learning how to handle those road bumps, because that could be your downfall if you don't handle those well. You might get discouraged and want to give up and throw in the towel. It's like, no, hell no. It's whatever. Like, if you go look at the first couple episodes of our podcast, they were terrible. They were shot terribly. The sound quality was terrible. I didn't care, though. I knew it was like, I don't know how to do this that great yet. It's fine, though. I'm going to figure it out. It's going to get better. And now we're on like episode 52, 53, and it's great. Everybody loves it. Nobody remembers that, right? So it's like, don't judge yourself too harshly,
Well, I'll tell you what, make the mistakes early and make them often, because you don't want to handle those later. The more you stumble at the beginning, all you're doing is laying the foundation. These problems are going to come up at some point, right? Like I told you, one of my first episodes early on, I didn't save throughout, and my computer crashed, and it was gone.
Yeah,
that would be a much bigger problem with some of the guests later that I've had. Yeah. And I'm thankful that those issues happened. You know, you can't just lose. It's a good thing when these things happen at the beginning. Don't get so upset with yourself. Yeah. Don't get discouraged, because all it's doing by having these mistakes happen is teaching you more and more and more, and putting you in a better position moving forward.
Exactly.
You're in a great position moving forward. Everything's been blowing up. Sitting here, and dude, you've been on TikTok is where you've been all of a sudden promoting things, and you've been putting out all these videos, and just me sitting here with you, you've gone up, I don't know, 10,000 followers or something over the course of this week, just doing that. It's been incredible. But how can people best support you moving forward? Where do you want to see them?
Follow our YouTube channel, Strip Down Podcast. That's where I'm trying to push more of our TikTok followers. Instagram and YouTube. I was trying to get that to catch up with the the TikTok page. So that's where you can hear me talk more deeply like this. You're going to experience a different personality, because you're like, oh, that's a different Myles. That's the entertainer Myles. This guy is like more the serious business Myles. But yeah, he's a much more fun guy. He's definitely entertaining and much more lively. But we get into some cool discussions that I feel like everybody, guys and girls, can learn from, and like you're gonna find entertaining, and definitely pick up some pretty good tips for your personal life. I'll just leave it at that. But it's at Strip Down Podcast on YouTube and Instagram, and then if you want to hit up the TikTok as well, you could check that out. We're definitely popping off over there. And then my personal pages are at Myles Hass, MYLESHASS.
Dude, thank you for everything, for kicking it with me, having ramen the other day, teaching me some letting me hang out in your baller penthouse that you somehow afforded by selling male strippers all over the country. You're the man. I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Passion Pod. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We'll see you soon.